While corporate media is dutifully silencing itself, I'm here to say that freedom isn't free and neither is independent media. I'm Kathleen Thompson, and I'm so proud to be the executive director at Progress Texas. I want to be real with you about our financial situation. Like many nonprofits, we generally only have a few months of funding on the horizon, but now we're at a 3 months solvency point. If you've come to rely on our work supporting the truth and standing up for progressive ideas and actions, we need your help. If only 10% of our audience signed up as monthly contributors of at least $10 a month, we'd make our goal of funding for the next year, during which we'll be covering the all-important 2026 midterm elections. Please help Progress Texas keep going and join the fight with our summer vacation membership drive happening now at progresstexas.org. Thanks, y'all.
This is an egregious, craven power grab by Republicans. They are afraid of voters and they are trying to silence the voters. Trump is running scared, and that's what this map is about.
Austin State Representative Gina Hinojosa from yesterday afternoon's presser of the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus at the Texas State Capitol. It's Thursday, July 31st, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch. Rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. National reverberations over new congressional district maps released yesterday by Texas Republicans that will take a carving knife to most of Texas's major cities. Not only the home of democratic and progressive values in the Lone Star State, but also the real economic engine behind the so-called Texas miracle. As these maps stand, hundreds of thousands more of these urban Texas voters are likely to end up with zero voice in Washington, D.C. Philip Jankowski and Gromer Jeffers Jr. at the Dallas Morning News dive in here on the GOP plan they say will eliminate one democratically held seat each from Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, and the Austin-San Antonio area. District lines would also be redrawn in South Texas, pushing two seats currently held by Democrats towards stronger Republican majorities. All of this intensifying the likelihood of blue states like California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and more redrawing their boundaries to offset Republican gains in Texas and highlighting the possibility and perhaps necessity for Democrats in the Texas legislature to flee the state in order to delay or prevent a vote on the plan, which must be finalized by the filing deadline of Monday, December 8th. That's 130 days from today. The Dallas Morning News talked to Progress Texas Executive Director Kathleen Thompson. She said, quote, "In 1 week, patriotic Americans will celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, passed under President and Texas Democrat Lyndon Baines Johnson. Republicans have been working to overturn it since, and today their racist redistricting map is out. Now, instead of working on emergency items like flash flood mitigation and warning systems, Texas Republicans are focused on stealing your voting power. 60 years later, white guys are still calling each other and saying how brown and black citizens can vote," unquote. Another deep dive on the Republican map from Gabby Birnbaum and Eleanor Klibanoff of the Texas Tribune with a well-done graphic that expresses the way in which this map will further crowd Democratic representation into the cores of our biggest cities, which across the vast, mostly red scale of Texas look like itty-bitty little blue smears around DFW, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and just barely visible in El Paso. Outside of that, not a speck of blue in the borderlands, the Rio Grande Valley, or the Texas coast. The Trib says that while Republicans hold 25 of Texas's 38 House seats, Trump carried 27 of those districts in 2024. The two extra in the RGV, the seats won by close margins by Congressman Henry Cuellar of Laredo and Vicente Gonzalez of McAllen. That itself a sign that voters in South Texas are clearly capable of distinguishing Donald Trump from his faithful lackeys, but I digress. Under the new lines, Trump would have won 3 or more of those congressional districts, a total of 30 by at least 10 points. The map divides voters of color in Tarrant County among multiple neighboring Republican districts and changes the shape of the 35th district in Central Texas, represented at present by Congressman Greg Casar of Austin, which was originally created as a result of a court order to protect the voting rights of people of color. As we talked about yesterday, Republicans are banking that a dramatic swing towards Donald Trump last year among Hispanic voters in Texas will translate into party loyalty next year. Despite all that's happened and will continue to happen under Donald Trump for the next year and a half, but as I said before, they've already shown the capacity to split party votes, and Trump ain't on the ballot in 2026. The new map pits Dems against Dems in the big cities. As we mentioned yesterday, there's the prospect of a Greg Casar-Lloyd Doggett contest in Austin. And in DFW, Congressman Mark Veazey has seen his home base of Fort Worth shaved off of his district, which would now be entirely in Dallas County, setting up a possible primary between Veazey and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. In Houston, where of the 4 safe Democratic districts, CD 18 remains vacant, as we know, until this November's election. Congressman Al Green's CD 9 sees a big draw-in of Republican territory, where the 9th went to Kamala Harris by 44% last year. It would have gone to Trump by 15% under the new lines. Andrew Schneider at Houston Public Media gives an update on the potential quorum break that would be one of few options remaining for Democratic resistance to all of this. Renee Cross, Senior Executive Director of the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs, says recent field trips by State House Dems to places like Michigan, California, Illinois, and most recently New Mexico appear to be scouting ventures for possible points of exile. Cross says, quote, particularly with New Mexico, there has been some discussion about how friendly the state's going to be for the Democrats that are breaking quorum, unquote. Mark Jones, political science fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute of Public Policy, notes that the map drama has now pretty much drowned out anything else on the special session agenda. Quote, we're 1/3 of the way through the session and very little has occurred. And the likelihood is that this whole redistricting saga is going to overshadow things. And the more people believe there's going to be a quorum break, the less intense will be the pressure to actually do anything else, unquote. On the prospect of a House quorum break, Michelle Davis at Lone Star Left is saying what we've been saying, which is, what about the Senate? As Davis puts it, quote, the burden, the pressure, the calls for sacrifice, it's falling squarely on House Democrats, young members with families, lawmakers who'd face $500 a day fines for doing the right thing. Some are preparing to make that sacrifice anyway, and for some, it would come at a real personal cost. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats who could break quorum without any penalty aren't even part of the conversation, unquote. And, well, they've been part of our conversation. But Davis is right here. Outside of a comment from Senator Roland Gutierrez on this podcast feed on Monday, we're not seeing any motion to break quorum in the Texas Senate, which once again they could if all 11 Democrats stuck together and with their party. A long shot, I know, for a lot of reasons that are laid bare in a rather scathing post from Lone Star Left. See the link in the show notes. One important special session item that's very much on the back burner, it would appear, and by Republican design, is flood relief. There is a hearing set for this morning in hard-hit Kerrville. CNN says Texas's select committees on disaster preparedness and flooding, each chamber represented by 9 members, will this morning hear from Kerrville Mayor Joe Herring Jr. and City Manager Dalton Rice, and Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly, Sheriff Larry Letha, and Emergency Management Coordinator W.B. Dub Thomas. Letha and Thomas have both acknowledged that they were tucked safely in their beds asleep while the flood was raging through their jurisdictions on the early morning of the 4th of July. Members of the affected public are set to be given a chance to speak as well. We'll check in on all of that tomorrow. Before we close, got to get this one in. Texas Agriculture Commissioner and Western wear enthusiast Sid Miller has been fingered by a former friend who says Miller asked him to get rid of a bunch of pot a few years ago before the DEA found it on his property. Kate McGee at the Texas Tribune says Michael Hackney, who was living in a motorhome on Miller's Stephenville Ranch, where the ag commissioner was licensed to grow hemp in 2022, told the Texas Ranger that Miller asked him to dispose of 3 bags of marijuana cigarettes and gummies out of fear of being busted with them by the feds. Hackney quotes Miller here as having said, quote, I've got to get rid of this. I've had it at the house, and if the DEA comes, I can't get caught with this stuff. You do with it whatever you want. Get rid of it, but don't leave it here, unquote. Miller denies the allegation, of course, and strangely, personally, I don't find the image of Sid Miller sparking up a joint all that difficult to imagine. Austin listeners and soccer fans, take note. We're planning a live podcast recording event for Monday, September 15th with All-Star Austin goalkeeper Brad Stuver, co-hosted by Landon Cottom of the Great Austin FC podcast Moon Tower Soccer. We'll be talking about Brad's progressive activism along with his wife Ashley, both of their ventures into political advocacy, including their own Brad and Ashley Stuver Foundation, and the courage it takes for public figures to stand up for what's right these days. Come Thursday, as we're doing this at Hop Squad Brewery in North Austin near the stadium. Sponsorship opportunities are up right now, and individual tickets will go on sale soon at progresstexas.com. progresstexas.org. Again, mark your calendar for our Brad Stuver event coming up on Monday, September 15th. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine at a moment when funding for public and independent media outlets and media figures who don't bow down to MAGA is under full attack. Progress Texas relies on listener support to keep going, but lately we've come within 3 months of running out of funding. Progress Texas is in the middle of our summer vacation membership drive, and if just 10% of our audience signs up for a monthly donation of at least $10, we'd be good for the next year. We'd like to avoid going on a permanent vacation this summer. We could use your support right now as a monthly contributor. Please join the fight against authoritarianism and for progress in Texas right now at progresstexas.org. Thanks so much to brand new monthly supporters Mary Sisson, Carol Mannon, and Marilyn May, all of whom are on board. We appreciate all of you very, very much. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, July 31st, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.